call the meeting to order. The first item on our work session, briefing session agenda tonight is item number 1, which is discuss the agenda items. So, City Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item tonight on your consent agenda is the approval of the minutes for the March 15th, 2016 council meeting. The next item on the consent agenda is a resolution authorizing annual procurement of fuel with Martin Eagle Oil Company. And this is through a joint or a Tarrant County Commissioners Court contract. This is for fuel for city vehicles, and that is in an estimated amount of $349,230, and that is within our budgeted amount.
So what's the effective date of this contract?
The Commissioners Court approved the second option on February 2nd of this year, so it would be good at least through the next year, through February of next year, and then they have one more year on their renewal options.
We're talking about the mosquito sprays?
No, ma'am.
No.
The
Fuel.
Okay.
The next item is the resolution authorizing the annual procurement and processing of library books with Brodart Company. This is in an amount of $100,000. This is for the annual procurement and replacement of books. And that's approximately 6,000 to 7,000 new books. And that is through Brodart Company through a City of Dallas cooperative purchasing agreement.
Is the pricing on it similar to last year, or is it just the
It's the same.
same? All right.
Well, at one time, it was about 50,000, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, at one time, I think we're the 4B board
Was paying half
was
of it?
paying half of it. I think we shifted that all over the general budget.
The amount of Dennis's value, the amount has stayed the same, as just the allocation of it was probably just different.
That's correct. The amount that we spend per year with the vendor remains the same. It's just a change. It's a change in how it's funded. It used to be about $75,000 from general fund, $50,000 from economic development, or the Fund 12, and that was changed. It was put all $125,000 into general fund this year.
Well,
So this is for 100,000, right?
Yeah.
Then we have 25,000.
We have other vendors besides Brodart, but they are our largest supplier, yes.
Well, why did we take it out of half economic development, half?
Because I felt that it was more appropriate to be in the general fund. It's an operational cost that should be allocated to the library and not coming out of the EDC.
And did Friends of the Library, did they come up with very much?
I am not aware of exactly how much they bring in, but they do contribute to the library in other forms. They don't typically contribute to our material allocations budget, but they do help us with supplies and programs and other sorts of things.
The next item on your consent agenda is a resolution exercising the second of 2 one-year renewal options for auto pound and record services with 24-hour record service company. This provides for labor, equipment, and materials to furnish 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operations at the city's auto pound. They are also the vendor who will initiate towing services when requested by the city, police or fire department, or the Dallas County Sheriff's Office. We do receive some revenue back from them, percentage of their storage fees and their vehicle auction fees. We estimate about $16,000 in revenue from this contract.
You said they operate out of our town?
They operate our auto pound on Woodhaven. Yes.
And are they a local business who operates it, or are they coming in, they have an outside business also, outside the city?
What was your question, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Do they have an outside, are they outside the city? Are they an outside business, or do they also have one in the city?
They
Or
also
are they
have
just-
a business in our city, but they also serve as a record company for other cities besides
Okay,
Duncanville.
but their base of operations in Duncanville?
That's correct.
Is this the same company that we used before?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. We're renewing this contract.
It's not J&S like it
Yeah.
was for.
Yeah, for 100 years.
Uh-huh.
We've been very pleased with
No better than J&S.
JNS was in Glen Heights, right? JNS, they were located in Glen Heights, right?
it. You know, that's a good
They're
question.
on the bid sheet, their address is listed as Dallas.
But they lived in Duncanville.
Oh, all right.
They lived here?
There's a,
Yeah, I just knew they operated out of Potato out there. They didn't live there.
no,
Okay.
No, they just have an office there. The next item on the consent agenda is a resolution approving the terms and conditions of an agreement with Dallas County. This is with the Health and Human Services Department, and this is for mosquito spraying. This is a contract as we have entered into before. And with this agreement, if we have a positive mosquito trap, we contact Dallas Health and Human Services, and they will spray and then charge us by the hour for that spraying. And that is ground spraying mosquitoes.
And what's the poison they're using? Is it the same pyrethrum?
I don't know what they're using.
I didn't hear the question.
That's what spray they're using? Is it the same as
It's
they have been?
Same,
using?
yes.
Okay. And it's just for the specific mosquitoes that has the, what's that virus?
West Nile.
West Nile virus.
West Nile. And
Well, they've got that second one now that they're concerned about.
And it's a different mosquito.
Well, this- that-
So does it include all of that, or is it just for the West Nile virus?
We've not been informed by Dallas County that the spray has changed at all.
Okay.
So whether or not it's effective on the Zika virus, I'm sorry, I
But
didn't.
if plans, I mean, if things change,
Sure.
that they'll change the poison and the time of spraying according to the mosquito and the threat.
Right.
That's what I'm asking.
Well-
And it won't be an increase in the amount. I mean, I didn't see the
The
contract.
contract refers to the St. Louis encephalitis or West Nile virus.
Okay.
This year, I
No
have
contract.
seen a real increase in those, what do they call them, the flying bugs that eat mosquitoes. Tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's that about? Did somebody,
More mosquitoes, more bugs.
no, is it the lake? We don't have.
Warmer weather.
It's
We
here.
have a winter.
I think it's 'cause- you think that was it?
I think so.
Because it's almost, I know people who will buy bugs and let them loose, like ladybugs
Oh,
and different things. So I just wondered if, because that could be a real good, if you didn't kill them.
What they did, they dumped him out, and it dumped him in our backyard, because
We
there's a
had
lot of
tons of them, yeah.
Well, they said on the news the other night that this is gonna be a really bad mosquito year because of the heavy rains, all of the conditions, no major freezes and things like that.
Well, because I go back and forth, I just say at Cedar Creek, at our home there, I haven't seen any of those mosquito eaters, and I've seen a ton of mosquitoes. And here, I've seen a ton of the mosquito eaters, and I haven't seen a whole lot of
That's good.
mosquitoes. I know, it's good, that's why I'm
They were
wondering,
living right.
did somebody let them, did
Gotta
somebody
trap
breed
them
them?
and import them, export them to your lake.
I don't know what's up with that, but have you not seen it? They're everywhere. Those-
How they do that is with a large fruit jar.
I don't know, what are they called?
I don't know what.
No, I don't know what they're called, but
They're all over
they eat, they're all over
Yeah.
the place.
That is all the items for the consent agenda. On the regular agenda for individual consideration, we have an item, A and B are related, and that is for award of contract procurement of ready-mix concrete with Ready Mix LLC. Previously, the City of Dallas, this is through the City of Dallas contract, and their contract was expiring in September of 2015. They have since rebid that, and the price of concrete has gone up. It was previously $84 a cubic yard and has now gone to $111 per cubic yard. So for that reason, the quantities that we would typically use, the amount of our cost now is going to be increased, and so therefore it is above our budget. We have concrete budgeted in two areas, in the general fund for streets maintenance, and then in the water and wastewater fund for utility cuts and repairs. The general fund, we will be able to allocate or make up the cost overrun through savings and other line items, but in the utility fund will be a short. So the second item on the agenda is the ordinance amending the utility fund budget then to allocate additional funds from the fund reserve in the utility fund for that additional cost of concrete.
That will be adjusted in our new budget coming up. October.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the utility fund, is that that's the water fund?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Water and wastewater.
So we're borrowing money out of the water fund?
No, it's the fund reserve in the utility fund that we're allocating to that line item for concrete. So the line item for concrete, or whatever the line item where that is allocated was not enough. So we're going to make a budget amendment to take out of the fund reserve in the utility fund and allocate it to that line item, also in the utility fund, but allocating it to the expense for concrete.
Yeah, it's not coming out of the general fund.
$30,000
General,
amendment.
the water fund.
Yeah, I said it's not.
Now, the
coming out of
general, well, we have, let me back up. We have concrete, the total amount that we're purchasing in concrete is $145,000. That is split up into two different funds. Part of that is in the general fund for street maintenance. Part of it is in the utility fund related to water and wastewater improvements and repairs. The general fund, even though it's over budget in the general fund, we can make that up through savings within that same line item, so we don't need to adjust the budget. But in the utility fund, we need to adjust the budget and take from the fund reserve, the undesignated reserves, and allocate it to that expenditure for concrete in the utility fund. So it's staying within the same fund. The next item, item 5C, is an amendment to Appendix B, the subdivision regulations, Article 4. And this deals with drive approaches, driveways, and parking spaces. And what we are doing there is proposing an amendment to the development regulations to allow for parking on an unimproved surface with, in the case of a specific use agreement or special events permit. And what that does is that in some cases where we have a large event, large overflow parking, we want to allow the use then of an unimproved surface for parking of cars for overflow events. But it has to be tied to a special event permit or a special use license, so it's not just an ongoing type of thing.
What's this in anticipation? Or is there a large event coming that we're anticipating?
Well, there are, in fact, we do this now with the field house. And so one of the things that this is related to is we have been working on an agreement with Crossroads Church to use their overflow parking for our overflow events. We are working with them, and we will do some improvements to that. That agreement will come to you the next council meeting. But within the current ordinance, we didn't have the authority then to be able to park on that unimproved parking area. But we do plan with that agreement with them to do a drive approach and do some other things to improve that area. And then next year we will build a ribbon road through there so that traffic moving through that area will be on an improved surface, but then they'll pull off and park on dirt parking. But it makes sense to do that for these types of special events as opposed to spending the money to build a parking lot that you would only use rarely. But tying it to a special use permit or a special event permit then keeps the control on it.
You know, they offered us some land.
Yes, ma'am. We've had some discussions with them about that. We've been
So they're
evaluating
still offering it?
It is still for sale.
It's too much though.
Will they come down?
You won't get us a deal.
That lot has been,
That lot's in the floodplain, the one that's,
For sale?
it is. But the area that we're talking about, and you'll see on the next agenda, is the area by the corner, which is unimproved right now. They've improved their parking area, and then there's the dirt area too. off of Main Street and the Service Road corner. And then the last item on the agenda is a resolution providing for the appointment of Kathy Austin as an associate municipal court judge, and this will be to fill the unexpired term of Judge Beverly, who recently resigned. And Judge Nealon and Kathy Austin are here if you have any questions or would like to meet. Judge, do you want to say anything?
I would urge the council to appoint Judge Kathy A. Austin as our third municipal judge. I've known her for 15 years since I moved my law practice to Duncanville in 2001 and rented space in her offices. During all of that time, she has served as a municipal judge, either as a primary or backup judge in the city of Glen Heights for over 15 years. And then also she's currently serving as an associate judge for DeSoto, for Ferris, and I believe Red Oak. And during all of that time period, she has maintained her judicial education and is current at this time. She went to the same yearly judicial education course that Judge Traylor did, along with Judge Kurth in DeSoto and Judge Petty in Cedar Hill the first week of March while I was on vacation. I believe she can work well with all of our city personnel, both in the city court and the police department. She's well trained in doing all of the things that we do, both in court and for the police department, which she did for 15 years for Glen Heights. She's a local resident, has been a local resident all this time. She applied for this position 3 years ago and was not appointed. I've spoken with her and she's still willing to help us now. And she will be a local resident, and she's also will be in town most of the time when we might need her, which we had some problems over the last 3 years. And I strongly urge that she be appointed now to fill the unexpired vacancy. If you have any questions for Judge Austin, she's available.
She lives in Duncanville.
There you go.
I do. I live less than a mile from here. So.
She lives on Eisenhower in the Lincoln subdivision, less than a mile from the police station. She's about 2 miles closer than I am. If they need her. And I know how she's operated during the years I was with her. We discussed a lot of judicial matters over those 13 or so years, and I feel comfortable she'd be a benefit to the city at this time.
If I can make a comment. I used to work at Glen Heights, and so I personally know Judge Austin.
In a good way, or were you before her?
Well, jumping ahead. No, I know her work down there. She did excellent work for Glen Heights, and so I'm personally familiar with her work. So I'm very supportive of her. And I've forgotten her name because we had a conversation. She said, "Well, I tried for this 2 years ago," and I said, "You did? What happened?" Anyway, long story short. So I'm very happy that she's still interested, and I'm very supportive of her.
Good. Would you like to say anything?
No, I'm retired now, so I have all the time in the world to come up and help Judge Nealon if he's not available, and Judge Traylor. I'm familiar with both of them, and so I'd be happy to go to work for Duncanville.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, that's all of our agenda items. Item number 2, or 2A, discuss whether or not to hold a joint meeting with the City Council and Duncanville Community Development Corporation.
This item is put on your agenda. Councilmember Jamison had requested that we have an item to discuss having a joint meeting with the DC EDC. Last year, as you recall, the council held joint meetings with all the boards and commissions, so the last time the meeting was held with DCEDC was in March of last year, so it's been over a year since then. The DCEDC typically meets on the second Thursday of each month, so that would be an option to have a meeting with them on one of their regularly held days. But this item is on here so that y'all can discuss.
Yeah, and I don't even know all the members of the Economic Development Board, and Leslie said she didn't either, and so it's kind of odd that we've been on here this long and we have not had a joint meeting to even meet them and talk to them and make sure we're all on the same page.
That would be, I would agree with that. I would suggest that we do it on their meeting night.
That's fine.
And, you know, we can meet a little earlier or whatever and have a meeting with them before they meet to have their session.
Since they meet the second Thursday of each month, their next meeting is next Thursday. So is this something you want to do next week, or do you want to defer it to May?
Is that April 21st?
No,
No, ma'am, it'd be April 14th.
There is something going on.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, the theater center's having a gala that night. Some of us have paid for tickets.
Is that, you're talking about Morton's?
No, a gala for the outreach ministry.
Oh.
That's their initial play. It's gonna be a gala for them. The proceeds are going to the outreach ministry.
Well, if we wait too long, we'll be back at the point where we're,
There's just some issues that are pressing, and I think it's the sooner the better, in my opinion.
Well, their May meeting then would be May 12th if you wanted to wait until
May
that.
12th
then.
is something else. That's going to be the Boards and Commissions banquet. No, that's
May
not Boards and
5th.
Commissions.
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
not May 5th.
Well, that's after the election, isn't it?
No, that is May 12th.
Well, the 12th, yeah.
But it's before the canvassing is done.
Yeah.
I don't
well, then,
think-
is there a time we can just
May
have a
12th
quick
is
one?
almost the Boards and Commissions.
I don't
If we
anticipate
do,
it to be
if we
long.
do, we can, and we can vote, if we do it on a date other than their regular meeting, then we need to poll for their availability as well as your all's availability. So I think it's a little more problematic than to have it on their normal day. But we can do that. Checking if there's some dates that y'all prefer or that are open, then we can check their availability and see about it.
So what is the date of their next meeting?
May 12th, oh, I'm sorry, their next meeting is next Thursday, April 14th.
And then the 12th, May 12th.
And then May
is-
12th. is the
Okay,
next one
April
after that.
14th, and so what do we have?
We have the foundation gala.
I know, but after that we could just, because I don't anticipate that's long, just,
What's next Tuesday?
Tuesday after that
Is our
is
council
April
meeting.
19th is council. April
Yeah.
21st is the public meeting on.
Next week.
Oh, next meeting, next Tuesday,
Yeah, that would.
April 12th.
but then you can't ask them if they're available April 12th, their meeting's the 14th. Unless Mary calls them.
Yeah.
Jessica can poll the board and see if they're available the 12th for me.
Do we have anything set up?
I don't see anything on the calendar for the 12th. That I have on there for anything, but the following week is, there are.
What if we had them at the night of the council meeting?
April 19th? Could go long, if you have briefing and council meeting.
Well,
You could do, if you do on the council meeting, suggestion might be to have them right after your regular meeting, so, plan for like 8 o'clock or something, see if they would be available then.
hot dog, 8 o'clock, he's got us moving.
That was
Get all of y'all
There's a
to
second, yeah, there's a secondary purpose.
That was an incentive for y'all to kind of move along.
Barry, you look like you're the only one here from the committee. How's that stack up with your schedule?
Every date that's been mentioned so far with my schedule is okay, but there's 7 others that have to be.
Sure.
And you're the
I'm the vice
vice
president.
president, yeah. I'm sorry, your name is,
Barry Gordon.
it's nice to know you, I'm John Adam James.
Nice.
Well,
So
do y'all
I'm
want
the
to,
representative of the comprehensive plan for the EDC.
you want to give us like 3 choices, first, second, and third, and then we'll check with the board and see when we can get the most of them
Hard
for
time
it.
with one.
Well, I heard next council meeting, April 19th,
Yeah.
perhaps after the meeting.
Okay,
Is that?
I thought that's what we were, yeah.
Okay, so that would be April 19th.
8 o'clock.
Or we had April 12th, next Tuesday, April 12th. You could do that at, what time do they normally meet at, Jessica, 6:30 or
At
so?
6:30, and really that's kind of the earliest, because we do have a couple of board members that work out.
Okay, so maybe 7 o'clock on April 12th, is that an option for everybody? Tuesday, April 12th?
I think I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay.
Maybe one minute.
Then you want to put that one or something? All right, so we're back to 1.
What about the 21st, April 21st,
April,
that's a Thursday?
that's the public meeting on US 67.
That's also
It's
Rotary,
also the candidates forum. is that
teacher
night.
appreciation.
Well, that's not
dinner.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff going on there.
I like it, I like it. Gotta do the council stuff first.
And then another option Jessica mentioned is April 28th, Thursday, April 28th, I think. There was something.
Pantherettes.
That's the Panther.
That's right, that's, I knew there was something going on. That's
What is that, the
the
28th?
That's
I
the
don't think I've got
the
that
banquet
down.
for the
I
Pantherettes.
have enough room for
I don't
it
have
on
it.
the
Just have so
Um,
much stuff going on.
Yeah.
Try those 2 dates and see what happens.
Well, I only have one.
Yeah,
Is
just
it
April
12?
19th at 8 o'clock.
Did we say the 12th too?
Well, no, Councilman Jameson is gonna be out of town,
So, yeah.
so. Well, or then we're looking at, or do you wanna try for May, well, May 12th is really up to y'all since they have a meeting scheduled. So, well, we'll check and see about their availability for the 19th, and if we can't get them, then I guess we would be looking at the May meeting.
May 12th.
Okay, we'll let, all right.
Okay. Item number 2B is to receive a presentation regarding the library's 2016 strategic plan. And library.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Dennis Quinn. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
Say Dennis Quinn.
My name is Dennis Quinn. I'm the library director for the city of Duncanville. I'm joined tonight for this presentation by Mr. Joe Hassler, who is the vice president of our library board, and he was intensely involved in the process by which this plan was delivered. So I'll give you a little bit of background. He'll tell you a bit about the input that we received from the community during the process and our strategic responses as going forward. And I'll end with some highlights of the departmental work plan that results from this. Just as some background, in the summer of 2015, we had some preliminary discussions between staff and the library board about the needs to revise some of our long-term planning documents. These were also listed as 2 items on the city work plan, items 1.7 and 4.13. The need for a strategic plan for programs and services, and for a updated collection development plan. Also during the process, we talked about the need to look at some other aspects of library service beyond just the programs that we offer and the stuff that's on our shelves, such as our technology, our space, and the way that we market library services to the public. We developed the process through July and August. The process was approved by the Library Advisory Board in September, and we carried it out through from October through December. We had a work session among staff on the 17th. During that time, we were also closed with lots of renovations, so we had time and space to do that. And a draft plan was developed from January through February and was approved by the Library Advisory Board on March 3rd, and we are in the process of carrying it out as we speak. Through this process, we drew on lots of sources of information. We tried very hard to bring in information and data from outside the scope that we normally had. In the past, in our long-term planning endeavors, we relied a lot on some quantitative data in the form of statistics that we collect in-house, as well as customer surveys and interviews with library patrons. But one of the things that we discovered was this left out of the equation people who are not already involved in interacting with the library. It didn't take into account members of the community who are not already engaging with the library, and that's really a slice of the pie, a slice of our community that we want to better serve. So we made a concerted effort to gather information and data that looked beyond our normal scope. We relied on census data from 2014. We got some ESRI data to look at how technology is used in addition to our usually collected service measures, and for comparison, to compare our library services with those of other libraries in the state of Texas, we relied on report data that's submitted annually to the Texas State Library. We compared ourselves to other libraries serving similar sized populations with similar resources from a tax base. We also brought in some qualitative data by putting out a survey to library users. This survey was available for the public through the months of October through just past New Year's into early January. And we also had a series of meetings with some strategic partners. This was originally intended to be sort of a focus committee, but due to scheduling constraints, we took a different approach. We adapted midstream and turned it more into a series of one-on-ones. And again, Joe was heavily involved in those meetings as well. So we took the information, compiled it together. We asked ourselves what is being asked of the library in support of the community that we want, and what steps can we make to make progress down that track. And I'll give the clicker over to Joe, who can tell you about what we heard.
Well, as we were discussing redoing the document for the library, as Emma said earlier, was including people who aren't already using the library, the benefits and the curriculum. And one of the things that I constantly was reminded myself, as well as the board, was I fall into the demographic. I don't instantly think about going to the library. And so as we were doing this document, we had a vision to use timely and relevant information to help us get people to be stakeholders of what we were trying to do at the library. Keep it relevant so that people my age want to go back to the library and earlier, before we have kids ourselves, and we're going there because of our kids, but we want to go there before ourselves. Also, we wanted to share the knowledge. We found out pretty quickly that, well, we don't communicate very well to the public about what we do serve. And so we need to figure out how within this document we purposely put in there. Communication is key to helping people understand that we do have knowledge and there's expertise and resources out there that you might not know of unless you're looking for it or someone points you in that direction. We also wanted to encourage the future of this document and the future participants to be able to be creative and innovative and not just stick within these little four walls, but think outside of it and actually really expand and really put their heart and soul into the project and not just go, well, the library is just all about books, because today's library is not all about just books. As well as our final vision for this, in keeping with your guys' mission statement of being a community, we really wanted to hone that in and say that the library is a big hub for the community. It's important that all ages are represented and are able to go to the library and be a part of it. So as we were going through this process, as all processes, there are some obstacles and issues that you come up with. And for us, these are some of the high points, or some of our low points that are coming up over and over again. And the biggest being weak communication. For example, how many of you guys know that the library has a Pinterest board that they very rarely use on the internet? I didn't know either. I thought it was kind of funny that the library had a Pinterest board and it's never being used. So we found out pretty quickly that we need to communicate the services and the resources that the library did have on a regular basis and not just kind of assume people knew what the library has. We also found out that there's weak alignment, sparse collaboration, that the library is kind of its own little entity over there on that side of Armstrong Park. And we need to work on that. That's not how a community works. A community is all-inclusive and collaborates with all entities. We have a very big digital divide in the community, meaning that even though we live in 2016, not everyone has the accessibility to the same technology. And the library has the opportunity to be that hub and that connection, so people who can't afford a new computer themselves can come and use a resource that they're not able to get on a daily basis at home. We also heard multiple times that we have enough local history resources in our library, and that the school yearbooks and genealogy were real important to the community. So we listened, and we heard it quite often enough that we couldn't not hear it as we were going through this process. And the other big thing that was told was a limitation of the existing library space itself. The building itself limits what we can do because of its size. And a lot of people were saying that if the building was a little bigger, if there was a little bit more, if it was roomed and segregated off differently, we could do more and offer more. And so we took that into consideration as well. And so as we heard all of our struggles and what we needed to potentially work on, we put together 9, I believe, thank you, responses. And as you can see, the number 1 is communication. Because if you don't know about something, you're not going to take part of it and be a part of it. So we want to, in the strategic plan, we want to have a heavy emphasis on communication, convenience, collaboration, technology, creativity, lifelong learning, so we don't just hit the young kids and then the senior citizens, but we hit everyone in between as well. And inclusiveness, preservation, and commons. Dennis Quinn had a very opinionated when it came to the commons, that there's typically 3 areas that you gravitate towards the most. Your home, your work, and then something else. And typically it's a place like Roma's, everyone goes to Roma's, or the community theater. The library could be that place for people to naturally go and spend time doing multiple different things, from just reading silently, studying a new subject, or listening to a special guest speaker come in with his or her expertise. And so as we were putting this document together, we wanted these 9 things to be important to help us reach our mission statement. At the staff meeting, Dennis invited me to be a part of that, and listening to the other librarians and the staff members, kind of tweaked the mission statement that they were using. They didn't feel like it was creative enough, I guess, or nurturing enough. And so through quite a few different versions, we finally decided that through education, collaboration, and innovation, we enrich lives, stimulate imagination, and nurture a greater sense of community. And that's really what Duncanville Public Library wants to be. They want to be nurturing, they want to enrich lives, and they want to stimulate the imagination. And to do that, we do that through education, collaboration, and innovation. And so the staff and the board were really encouraged and supportive of this mission statement. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. And as I was standing back there, I realized we were also joined by Diane Lemons, who snuck in after I began the presentation. She's the president of our library board, so we have the president and the vice president here as well. So the resulting work plan, after taking into consideration all that Joe has told us, all of the input that we've received about what is wanted, what is needed by the community, what the obstacles are that we're facing, and the 9 areas that we need to focus on in order to overcome those obstacles and realize that vision. When we take all of that and comb it down into a list of actionable objectives, real projects that you can actually see being realized, there are 5, they kind of fall into 5 different categories. 2 of these, the collection development plan at the top, the resources and collection, and programs and services, those are the 2 pieces of this work plan that satisfy items 1.7 and 4.13 of the city work plan. The technology plan also was due for revision, so we rolled that in as well. And two aspects that had not really received a lot of attention were, like I said earlier, the marketing and the use of the library's space and any capital improvement needs that may arise. The version of the plan that was adopted by the library board on their March 3rd meeting is included in your packet. It's also available online for the city to view. The one key thing that I want to note before hitting down some of the highlights is there's a critical difference between this strategic plan approach and previous planning approaches. In the past, this public library and many other public libraries have, they've observed a typical 5 or 6 year planning cycle, where you look really intensely at strategic planning for about a year or so, project 5 years out, implement that plan, and typically don't come up for air until the plan's done. Through the process that we went through, we discovered that that cycle really is not sufficient anymore. We really need a plan, we really need a process that's more adaptive, a strategic plan that is sort of a living, breathing document. So one thing I want to stress to you is that this plan will be used differently than previous plans. It does not look out as far. The document that's included in your packet only projects out 2 years or so, as opposed to 5 or 6. But with the understanding that it's a constant touch point, it's a touchstone that we're constantly looking at and constantly revising and assessing as we carry it out. It sort of mirrors in a sense the city's work plan, but it follows a shorter time cycle. It's going to be a standing item on every library advisory board meeting and a constant reference for dialogue among staff, between staff and the board, among the library board, between staff and the board and the public about where are we with respect to the kinds of library services that we need to be providing. So with that context, I want to just kind of run down some of the highlights of the inaugural version of the strategic plan.
Dennis?
Yes.
If I could just add, the reason why we're taking this is to keep the conversation open at all times. It's not to just say, we're set in this is what we're going to do, this is all we're going to do. We want to be open to, if something comes up that's a great opportunity for the library to partake in, we want to be able to jump on it if able and actually continue to grow and not just limit ourselves within a certain set time frame and documentation.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Joe. One of the key aspects of being a relevant public library or relevant library of any type in the 21st century is being adaptive and responsive. So we wanted to find a way to develop a plan, but also make it able to adapt and take any input that we receive and weave it in and incorporate it into our approach going forward. So just a quick rundown of some of the things. I know we're closing in on time. A quick rundown of some of the things that you can look forward to in the coming months, because they do not require any additional budget that's not included. It's not already approved in our fiscal 16 budget. We have added a new online resource to our offerings, Chilton Online. Many of you who are into taking care of your own cars may recognize the Chilton Auto Manual name. We now have a subscription to that entire body of resources online, so it's accessible not only in print but also online. We are planning a collection analysis and a gap analysis to do a critical assessment of holes in the collection, any areas that need extra bolstering or we need to put more resources onto a given topic, anything that's not being used as much as we might have thought it was going to be and might be able to lay off on. We'll be rearranging some of our materials in-house for better accessibility and findability. We'll be working on a way to display and curate local art in the library, sort of along the lines of exhibits and all of that. We'll be implementing, and I should note this is not going to be taking place this fiscal year. We're looking at making library public services in addition to our offerings starting next fiscal year. We're also exploring the possibility of reciprocal membership that would allow citizens of Duncanville not only access to Duncanville Public Library, would also offer you access to the libraries in DeSoto and Cedar Hill as well, and sort of leveraging resources throughout the area in that way. And also looking at an audit and update of our internal signage, some of which has become incorrect as a result of our floor plan rearrangement, which we engaged in over Christmas. Some things to look forward to that will come back up for your consideration and hopefully approval in the fiscal year 17 budget process. We'll be looking to continue adding to our online resources, playing into the technological aspect, looking at ways to incorporate technology into our circulating collection for the main intent of increasing familiarity and supporting fluency in 21st century technologies. We'll be looking at ways to implement self-service checkout stations as sort of an efficiency and a convenience measure. We continue to get requests for credit card payment systems. We'll revisit that discussion. We'll look at some possible furniture replacement. Our furniture is about 15 years old or more and is showing its wear in some areas. And For further down the timeline, we'll be exploring some possible space reconfigurations. There's a lot more ambiguity and nebulousness in that area, but it's something that we'll be looking into. And also the possibility of a technology lab or a maker space, which is something that I'd be glad to talk about. And we've seen some examples of that really taking off in other public libraries in our neighboring cities and surrounding areas.
I'm a very big proponent of maker spaces. Do y'all know what a maker space is? Can you tell them what a maker space is?
So what the library has right now, and I'll make this brief, we have a computer lab in a sense, where it's a bay of computers that are available for usage. A maker space is a defined space in a library that makes available additional technologies such as 3D printers, audio-visual production machinery, cameras, microphones, a whole array of other kinds of technology that you can use. Software capabilities. I've even seen some of them have quilting stations or carpentry in the really large, right, fabrication lab kinds of things to not only to make those kinds of tools, to put them in the hands of citizens, but also to give them opportunities for learning how to use them. And it may open up avenues for additional careers down the line. It may become a hobby. It opens up lots of possibilities. I can refer you to North Richland Hills as an example of a library that's doing that stellar. Like I said, moving forward, it's designed to be continuously updated and a constant basis for conversation and ongoing assessment between staff and the library and the public. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about Notary Public, and that was not on the current budget, or you can have one person?
Yes, ma'am. The idea on that one is to make it available on an appointment basis. We wouldn't be servicing the entire range of notarial services, but mainly just doing authorizing or notarizing signatures, and that's mainly in response to demand that we've received. We're aware that there are a number of other notaries in the area. Our intent is not to be competing with them, simply to respond to a demand that we received, a request that we received.
I think it's a good idea. I think it would drive traffic. And, I mean, I don't know why we don't have that.
We got some over here.
Yeah, but I don't think people realize they can come over here. I know we can, but.
That's true. We do have a number of notaries on the city staff side, but my understanding is that they're mainly serving city functions. This would be public facing.
Right, I think that's a good idea.
You can expect to see it on the fee schedule for 17. That's what we're.
How much does it cost?
Dennis, do you have any ideas what you looked at it?
We were the cost of providing the service would be training, which would come to about $70 for training and materials. We were looking at charging a fee in response to that, about $1 per signature.
Wow, that's good. $5 or something. A lot of churches that close to Mark. It's
So
free
you're
at the
gonna
bank.
charge for it?
Yeah, it's free at the bank.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It is free.
but the bank is very,
Oh yeah, you have to have an account there.
yeah, where the library will be a little bit more open.
Well, I would think you'd need to have a library card.
Maybe.
So this concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, Joe or I'd be happy to.
Coffee.
Coffee?
Like a, it's like a Starbucks, how they have you reading and you sit and drink coffee. I mean, I saw that in the thing.
It was discussed, but again, it's one of those things where the physical building limits how much space we can give to this or that without.
What's your thinking on the space? How you have plans to grow, I guess. Are you going to take over the gym, or are you just going to go?
It's a work in progress. We have no word on what we would.
You're thinking about it, right?
Yes, definitely.
It's something that we're looking into a number of options. We do technically have a lot of square footage. We'd be looking into some options for either expanding or reconfiguring existing space. There's no definite plans at this point. It's something that we're still looking into. But yes, definitely looking into.
Council, we've got a tight schedule.
Yes.
Dennis, it's a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the hard work on the part of library board and library staff and our community partners that helped in the process. It was definitely a team effort, and we tried to make it as much of a community project as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next item is C is to receive the police department quarterly report and the work plan update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're going to move to our presentation fairly quickly in the interest of time. Thank you for this opportunity to share our quality report. Today's report is going to be presented by Lieutenant Brett Bean. He has 31 years of experience in the Duncanville Police Department. He's currently assigned to evening patrol. Brett?
Hi, how you doing? Most of y'all know me. If not, just ask a question and try to figure out where we're at. As far as our staffing and personnel goes right now, we actually have 2 vacancies and we have 3 recruits at various stages. We have one at Dallas County Sheriff's Department that will graduate in June, one at COG who will graduate in July, and then we have a 3rd recruit starting at the next COG Academy in May. Our civil service test will be upcoming as soon as we finish exhausting the list, and we try to place those in conjunction with when the next academy is coming up. Just for the first couple of months of this year, we've had reported of 2 youth sports incidents. Both had actively resisting suspects, and both were determined to be lawful within policy. We had 1 vehicle pursuit, which was assisting Cedar Hill with a robbery, and a possible stolen vehicle. That was also within policy. 0 complaints from citizens against our officers. Accomplishments for the first couple of months. Officer Ed DeSalm received 20-year perfect attendance. Animal Control Officer Brown had a 5-year service award. We had 7 commendations generated internally in January, 3 internally generated in February. Michelle Barber, the Chief Secretary and Administrative Assistant, received her 10-year service award. Our evidence technician, Tim Jones, received his 5-year award. And we had 10 externally generated notes and emails from citizens commending the officers. Amongst our other accomplishments, in January, 2 of our new sergeants graduated from the 118th School of Police Supervision from ILEA. This is part of our continuing education program for our executive staff. This was a 1-month full-time intensive supervisory course that both sergeants completed. Departmental activity. Citizen Police Academy number 52 started February 27th with 10. The graduation will be held in May. One of our other accomplishments in February, Tyler Wiley pled guilty to a 2014 murder of Ryan Lara. He received life in prison. We have 3 other suspects awaiting trial on that case. One of the big feathers in Duncanville's cap is next. We had 3 suspects that were arrested and charged with aggravated robbery that include offenses in the following cities. 10 aggravated robberies in Duncanville, 1 in DeSoto, 2 in Dallas, and 2 in Cedar Hill. I'm very proud to be the supervisor of the young officer who was working one of the surveillances that night. The chief had an overtime program going, and he watched them go in, rob a store. Lee was able to follow them and call on the cavalry. They ended up by Mr. Hugman's house with all of them on the ground. Since then, our detectives got confessions out of all these guys.
Mr. Hugman wasn't involved in it.
No, I just saw all these cars going down the street. I'm like, man, I hope they're getting that wrong.
In conjunction with that, it's been a very busy month in all of Dallas for robberies. We had another suspect that was arrested and charged and confessed to aggravated robberies, 4 in Duncanville, 2 in Garland, and 1 in Lancaster. He was apprehended in Lancaster, and our detectives went and got a confession for all 4 of our offenses. This is a cold case from 2011 of the aggravated robbery of a pawn shop. 2 suspects with an AK-47. Officers don't ever close the cases, and physical evidence eventually popped up, but we were able to link 2 suspects to that, and both of them were taken into custody in March. City competition, first place in the Christmas wreath, and first place in the chili cook-off. Some of our accomplishments, Officer Sis was recognized by the Texas Highway Trail Crime Prevention Association at its annual award presentation. Sis received the Presidential Award and also the Outstanding Crime Prevention Specialist. The Duncanville Police Department received the Outstanding Crime Prevention for a Small Agency Award. Our best practices is ongoing right now, today and tomorrow. Proofs of our compliance were sent to the Texas Police Chiefs Association. They were approved. The on-site visit is going on right now. Following that visit, the assessors will prepare a final report to submit to the recognition committee. This is so that we can receive a recognized status from the Texas Police Chiefs Association that will be able to show that this department is acting in the best practices of nationwide and state recognized law enforcement. Shows all of our policies and our training is current, and it would be a very big benefit to us in defending any types of false allegations or suits or anything like that. If you've been in the police station lobby, you've seen the big green box. This is the med return box that came in off of a grant from the North Texas High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area and the Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. This, I know if y'all have seen over the years, once or twice a year they would have a drug call back where we'd have to wait for people to come. Now if anybody has any medication or pills, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it goes in that locked vault in the lobby and then it's disposed of through the appropriate channels with DEA. So that takes a lot of pressure off of people trying to hold on to that stuff at the house for a while. The 2015 annual report has been completed for everybody's review. You're going to get a copy at the police department. One of the things we're glad to be able to show in January was that in December, our Santa Cop, it was a joint effort of the police department, the police association, the Citizens Police Academy alumni, Citizens Patrol, and individuals and businesses. We've done this for several years. It's a very rewarding program. It is done solely on a volunteer basis. And this year, we were able to assist 25 families with a total of 91 kids so they had Christmas in Duncanville. We're pretty proud of that. We finally hit 5,000 likes on Facebook. Our Part 1 crimes for the FBI came out, and as you'll notice, we did have an intense increase in robberies. I think we've already covered why, and they're off the street now. We've seen a rise in thefts. Everything else stayed pretty close. And that's it. And then I was asked to touch base real quick with y'all, just an update on the park ranger program. It's been going for about a year now. Officer Johnson is a ranger. The shift that I supervise, my shift covers Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Saturday night. So from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m., I see Kamisha 3 of her 5 days of her work week. She has really taken this job and exceeded our expectations. In the first 3 months of this year, she conducted 654 direct patrols on your parks. One thing I can say about her is if she's not in the park, then if she's on an emergency call to help someone, as soon as she's done, she goes back. I can watch the status screen on my desk or in my squad car and constantly watch if she's marked out in those parks. That's her entire focus. She also maintains segways. She attends the monthly park board meetings. And then she carries a load of activity like a patrol officer. So what she will typically do, it's been my experience, if she has a situation where people are arrested in the park, if at all possible, she hands that off to patrol so she can stay in the park. And when my patrol officers will take the prisoner and take them to jail. So the numbers may not do quite justice for what she's doing behind the scenes, but y'all should be really proud of her. I see her out there a lot of times talking to these kids and these parents, and she's done her best to really build a rapport between the police department and the city citizens that are in these areas, not just when you typically have a cop show up. So she's been very, very proactive on that. So, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask, it seems like I've received more phone calls about Redbird Park. And with the new bathrooms there, and the perception of citizens is that our crime has increased, and that we have people who are inebriated and on drugs and sex acts and all sorts of stuff that are going on in the park.
To my knowledge, we haven't received, I think we only received one call for service prior to me coming on duty, because that park borders Dallas and Duncanville. That call actually went to Dallas, and I believe the female that called, she said that an officer did not respond, and it was because that call went to Dallas Dispatch to the Redbird Park in Dallas, but to my knowledge, there's only been one call in reference to
There's a
complaints.
Redbird Park in Dallas?
Yes, it's
Yes,
where
yes, ma'am.
Bahama Beach, the third
Oh,
marsh.
okay, where Bahama Beach is, they call that Redbird Park?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And so, is there a way we can get that straightened out?
That bases on, if it's using a cell phone, it bounces off a 911 tower.
Oh, I know.
If
I-
Dallas-
I've had that happen, but
Right.
what they say normally is, who are you calling,
Right.
or what city are you calling?
When you call Southwest Regional, they do. I can't guarantee you
Oh,
what
so you're saying
Dallas call
Dallas.
take does. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Dallas asked me, because that's my district, and so, because we are on the border, and if we do call 911, they always say, who are you calling, what city, because we're right on the cusp. So,
The other thing, I'll be honest with you, I've dealt with people, not just in the parks along bordering roads, Redbird, Cedar Ridge, things like that. They may be in Dallas and they think they're in Duncanville or vice versa. And when they call, they'll say, what city are you in? You'll say, I'm in Dallas.
well, we had an inebriated woman on the bench who was going to the bathroom back and forth and throwing up, and everybody saw that. And let's see, I've had calls on just inappropriate things going on in the park. And the impression is, I'm wondering if maybe it would help if we locked bathrooms when the park closes.
That would be up
That
to
would be
y'all
a
in the park
manpower
department.
issue, Ms. Jameson. I would say you'd have to have someone responsible for locking and unlocking the parks. I'm not sure that, we would want to do that. Certainly, if we got that direction, we will.
But why wouldn't we want to do that? I mean, why would they be in the park when it's closed?
Well, it would be a staffing issue. You would have to have someone that would actually have to go to the park, lock it, unlock it at certain times. And so that would be an additional expense to the city. And our officers that are working 24 hours a day, when Kamisha is off, they're going to patrol those parks. It's not just like she's just going to be the only one patrolling them. So we're going to ensure that the parks are patrolled 24/7.
One of the nice features about this new type restroom is that it actually is remotely locked at the park closing time, and it doesn't unlock until the park opens.
So they can't
So
go
this
in.
particular one is already programmed that way. It's
Okay.
the first one we have in town like that.
Okay, so, well, I don't know, I just know that I've received more complaints, and it seems like, and maybe the bathroom isn't to blame for it, but I don't know. It certainly has happened this year that I've received more calls about mischief in the park.
Hey, kind of try to wind up here.
Thank you for the opportunity to present our report.
Move on. Thank you, Chief. There's one other item, it's the executive session, and so the city council shall convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel matters to deliberate the annual evaluation of a police officer to wit associate municipal judge. So at this time, it is now 7:04. We will adjourn the briefing session and go into executive session. I apologize for us being a few minutes late, but it's now 7:18, and we'll go ahead and call the city council meeting to order. Our first order of business tonight will be our invocation by Minister Manuel Laura from the Centro Familiar Cristino. I messed it up again. I told you I was going to mess that up. So, church. So after that, we'll have the pledges of allegiance. So will you please stand?
Yes. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love and for your mercy. Thank you, dear God, for the blessings you have bestowed upon this community. Dear God, I thank you for the mayor, for the city council, the administration. Dear Lord, we place them in your hands, dear God, their well-being, their health, dear God. Dear Lord, we're about to begin this meeting, dear God, and we ask for guidance. For your word tells us that the Lord gives wisdom, and out of your mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Dear Lord, I pray, dear Lord, that as they consider things for the present and the future, that you will guide them, dear God, by your Spirit. For we ask it in Jesus' name, and we give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor. Amen.
Amen. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge the allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Well, in the interest of time tonight, the mayor is going to dispense with his report and go right to the council.
Annual Appreciation and Awards Dinner. Yes. And I would like to recognize the awards winners from that evening. The Volunteer of the Year was Mr. Wayne Burkham. The Civilian Employee of the Year was Gabriela Hinojosa. And our Police Officer of the Year was Detective Matthew Chance Hill. So recognize all three of them for their outstanding work during this past year, and all of the police officers and men and women of the police department who work hard every day serving the citizens of Duncanville. So it was a very nice evening. We had a very enjoyable evening that night. The second thing I would like to mention is this Thursday evening, TxDOT will be hosting a public meeting on the I-20 Service Road project. It starts informally at 5:30 at the Hilton Garden Inn. There will be a presentation at 6 p.m. By TxDOT, and then they will have maps and general discussion, and then they have a question and answer session at 7 p.m. So please come out and learn more about that and that project. Thank you.
The next item is a proclamation, and I have a proclamation recognizing National Library Week. It's April 10 through 16, and at this time I'm going to ask Director Dennis Quinn of our library to come down and accept this. Dennis, I've prepared a proclamation which reads, whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions fueling efforts to better their communities, campuses, and schools, and whereas libraries support democracy and effect social change through commitment to providing equitable access to information from all regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or social economic status. And whereas libraries provide forums for diverse ideas and points of view that help us to better understand each other and ourselves, and whereas libraries are looking beyond their traditional roles, providing more opportunities for community engagement and delivering new and innovative services that connect closely with the needs of those that they serve, and whereas library workers are trained, knowledgeable professionals helping people of all ages and walks of life to gain knowledge and understanding that will help them live further, healthier, and more rewarding lives, and whereas the Duncanville Public Library and its personnel has supported the educational, economic, and cultural interests of our community in these ways and more since 1955, and whereas libraries, library workers, and library supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week, now therefore I, David L. Green, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim National Library Week, April 10 through 16, and urge all citizens to visit their public libraries and explore the world of possibilities that await them there. And we just had a presentation in our work session tonight of the new master plan for the library, and they've got big things that are going to happen, and they are changing their philosophy and way of doing business to not only incorporate what we call traditional book libraries to all of the new electronic and ways that they can connect with all of the public. So I want to congratulate you.
Thank you, Mayor, for this lovely proclamation. And I want to echo the sentiments. I also want to invite anyone who's here, anyone who's viewing remotely tonight, to stop by the library and visit with us and see if we can't help you with some project that you're working on. In case you hadn't known, you have a staff of 15 individuals who are highly qualified, 6 of whom are part-time, 9 of whom are full-time, and 5 of those full-timers are equipped with master's degrees in information science, and we're ready to help you with whatever project that you may be working on. You have a collection of over 100,000 resources on our shelves, in addition to some online resources and databases that you can access 24/7 from your home or on our public computers, of which we have 22, which are open and available for your use during our 56 hours of service during the week. We have every year, just about every year, we have about 100,000 circulation transactions. That's 100,000 statements of interest from citizens like yourselves of ways that you can use what we have on our shelves. We have about 25,000 hours of computer time that are available to you free just by being a citizen. And every year about thousands of people come to the library to participate in our events of all ages, our classes and story times, all for the betterment and the enhancement of your quality of life. We're about democracy, like the mayor said, in that we're available to all people regardless of who you are or where you come from. We're also about creativity and inspiring and fostering imagination and helping you with whatever it is that you're working on. If you've met me before, you know I say something like, if it's interesting to you, it's interesting to us. If it's important to you, it's important to us. We're here to help you, and you have some, if there's something that we're doing or something that we're not doing that we need to be working on, you're welcome to come talk to us, and you have a group of 9 individuals on the Library Advisory Board, 2 of here who are joining us tonight. We have Diane Lemons, who's our president, and Mr. Joe Hassler in the back, who is our vice president, and a group called the Friends of the Duncanville Library, which is a nonprofit in case you want to increase your contribution and get more involved. We'd love to have you. We'd love to come talk with you. Let us know if there's anything we can help you with. We're available just about any time of day. Thank you.
Item number 2B is to receive the financial report as of February 29, 2016.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Tia Pettis, the Assistant Finance Director. Looking at our financial report as of February 29th, February is the 5th month of our fiscal year, so we would expect to be at about 42% of our revenues and our expenditures respectively. And the numbers here for fiscal year 2016 beginning fund balance are unaudited and are subject to change. This was as of February, so our next item is the approval of the audit. So March, you won't see that disclaimer again. For our general fund highlights, the general fund available balance in excess of the 70-day fund balance is at $8 million. Our overall general fund revenues and transfers in are at 62% of the adopted budget. Our property tax payments are at 95% of the annual budgeted amount. And of course, as said before, this is typical for this time of year since the deadline is January 31st for property tax. Our sales tax revenue is about 2% higher than the same time last year. And of course, we have 3 months worth of actual revenue data because of the 2-month lag for sales tax. Our overall franchise tax revenues have started to come in, but they're at a decrease of about 4% over the prior year, same time last year. Our first chart we have here are for general fund revenues, and similar to what we present every month, the purple line signifies a straight line of our budget for fiscal year 2016. The blue line signifies our previous 3-year average, and the red line is for our actuals for this year, year to date, and the green line is our estimate for the rest of this current fiscal year. So as you can see, our actuals for the general fund revenues are slightly higher than we were for the prior year, and we're falling right in line with our budget for the year. Looking specifically at the property tax revenues, same type of chart. Purple line is the budget, blue is 3-year prior, and our red are the actuals. Our property tax revenue for the current year is about 5% over what we were last year, due of course to the property value increases. So you can see that red line's a little bit higher than our blue line, which is our previous 3-year average. Looking at sales tax revenues, of course, we have the 2-month lag for our actuals they are showing, but if you compare to where we are, we're just slightly above the prior 3-year average. So we are, as I said before, about 2% higher in sales tax than we were the previous year. So we're kind of moving right in line with where we budgeted. Overall general fund expenditures, the red line, they're under the purple line. We are right under where we should be this year for budget, so everyone's staying within their budgets. The utility fund outlook, the highlights, the available fund balance is at a deficit of the 60-day fund balance at about $152,000. Our water and sewer rate increases were enacted in October 2016. So of course, as we would expect, our revenues are about 19% higher than they were the same time last year. And our data here is only for 4 months worth of revenue for the 1-month lag for the billing. And same type of chart scenario here. Our actuals there in the red are slightly higher than the previous 3-year average. Utility fund expenditures, also on that red line, we are well under the budget, and so we are staying right where we should be as far as expenditures in the utility fund. Finally, we have just a little bit of an update on our innovation fund projects. Here we've got the listing as far as dollars is where the projects stand, and highlighted in yellow are the completed projects. These 3 projects were actually from fiscal year 15 that carried over, but have now been completed, and that includes our fire alarm system, our fire station air exhaust system, and the library rec center generator. And as always, in the spirit of transparency, our funds are available online for the citizens. And if you have any questions at this time, be happy to answer.
Councilwoman Jameson.
Hello.
Mike.
Oh, your mic.
Excuse me. Have you been able to determine where the increase in the sales tax might be coming from?
Well, we have not done a recent analysis, but we are looking as budgets, we're moving into the budget process right now. We are looking at the analysis of where the slight increase. We did, of course, budget flat, so we're still, it's just a 2% increase, so we're still kind of in that area of where we're pretty close to where we were last year.
Well, I realize it's not a lot, but maybe if it was something we could stimulate if we knew
absolutely
where it was coming from.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would talk about the strength of the building industry. That's probably
Cabinets?
well.
If you want to speak.
Just from general knowledge, we know that the building industry is fairly strong, fairly robust right now, and since we do have a number of entities that pay sales tax that are based in the home building business, I'm sure that has contributed some.
Okay.
Mayor, are you said? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Tia, for your report. Franchise taxes,
Yes, sir.
for the most part, are received quarterly.
That is correct, yes.
So what we have reflected in the report is basically pretty much 1 quarter.
Yes, so that would be about 25% of the year. So what you would see does represent 1 quarter.
Thank you.
Yes.
Seeing no further lights, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 2C is to receive a presentation from Patilla Brown and Hill LLP on the comprehensive annual financial report and single audit report for the fiscal year ending September the 30th, 2015, of which both include an independent auditor's report. Richard.
Good evening. I'm Richard Summerlin, the Finance Director, and I'd just like to introduce the partner on our engagement, Todd Pruitt from Patilla Brown and Hill, to give the report.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the council for giving us the opportunity to perform the audit this year. And I'd like to give special thanks to Richard Summerlin and Tia Pettis and all of the other staff at the city for all of their assistance they provided during the course of the audit. As you can probably imagine from looking at your comprehensive annual financial report, which is over 100 pages long, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into the preparation of that, and you also have to do it while undergoing the audit process. So we certainly appreciate all of their hard work and effort. We were engaged to perform what's called a single audit, and in a single audit, what you really have is the financial statement audit that you have every year, and then you combine that with a compliance audit of your federal grant awards. You may know that any local government that spends over $500,000 in a fiscal year is required to add this compliance audit to your financial statement audit. So in the documents that you have, you should have 3 independent auditors' reports that we've issued. Our report on the financial statements is on page 1 of the financial section of the comprehensive annual financial report. If you're looking at the CAFR, the first section of the CAFR is the introductory section, and it's numbered with Roman numerals. Immediately following that, you'll find the financial section, and the first page of that is our independent auditor's report. And what this report basically says is that the financial statements that you have in this report are the responsibility of the city. It's our responsibility as auditors to express an opinion on the financial statements. On page 2, you'll find our opinion. I'm happy to report that we've issued what's called an unmodified opinion, sometimes referred to as a clean opinion, and it's the highest form of opinion that we can issue. And what it basically means is that the financial statements that you have in this report have been audited by our firm, and in our opinion, they're free of any material misstatements. You'll also note on page 3 that our audit was performed in accordance with government auditing standards, and those standards require us to issue and report on 2 items that are included in your single audit report. Your single audit report is a separately issued report. It's not included as part of your CAFR. It's about 8 pages long. And if you turn to page 1, you'll find our government auditing standards report. And on page 1, we're talking about internal control over financial reporting. We're talking about all of the policies and procedures that you have in place over the preparation of these financial statements. As your auditor, we're required to gain an understanding of these policies and procedures in order so that we can plan and perform our audit. And if at any time we identify any deficiencies in these procedures that we consider to be significant, we are required to report them, and I'm happy to report that there were no significant deficiencies that were identified during the audit. On page 2 of the Government Auditing Standards Report, you'll find a section on compliance. And what that section is talking about, we're required to test the city's compliance with certain grants, contracts, laws, and regulations that we believe non-compliance with which could have a direct and material impact on your financial statements. And as you can see on page 2, the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. Immediately following your government auditing standards report, beginning on page 3, you have what we call the O&B report, and that's the report on our federal grant compliance part of our audit. If you turn in your single audit to page 6, you would see a schedule called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. And this schedule lists all of the different federal grant awards that the city had expenditures for during the year. The city had a total of just under $730,000 worth of federal grant expenditures. The way this process works, we don't test every program every year. We perform a risk assessment, and we select certain programs for testing. The programs that we selected for testing this year are listed on page 8. They were the FEMA program, Assistance to Firefighters Grant, and the Department of Justice program, the Equitable Sharing Program. Both of those programs, we performed a number of different compliance tests of compliance with up to 14 different compliance requirements. Had there been any findings or question costs, they would be listed at the bottom of page 8, and I'm happy to report that there were no findings or question costs in your federal awards grant section of the audit. So to summarize, you've got an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements. That's the highest form of opinion that we can issue. We identified no significant deficiencies in your internal controls, and there were no findings or question costs with your federal awards program. So I congratulate the city on a very clean audit. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey.
I would like to add that our auditor met with the Finance Committee several days ago and went in some degree of detail over the same matters that he addressed this evening. The Finance Committee members listened and asked questions and got all of the questions answered to their satisfaction. One of the things that we did notice was that this particular audit was completed without any comments in terms of suggestions or improvements. And that does not necessarily mean that Richard and Tia and all of them are perfect, by no means. It just simply means that they do good work And the way that the city is organized and operated is done so in such a manner that major mistakes or do not happen. And so the auditors in their risk assessment noted that. And so I appreciate the Finance Committee members as well as each of you sitting around the dais for setting the tone which makes such results possible.
Councilwoman Jameson?
Did you provide those little books?
I'm sorry, the CAFRs?
Your finance report?
Yes, actually, the city prepares these.
Can we have those, please? Thank you. And in the past, we have had some problems with money handling. Did you see any?
Any problems with money handling? No, I mean, again, if we had identified any significant deficiencies, they would be included in the report. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we did not identify any deficiencies in your controls that we considered to be significant. And actually, I'm not even sure that we had any audit adjustments, which we usually have quite a few audit adjustments at a city this size, and it was, which is usually where a lot of your comments and suggestions will come from, be generated from an audit, but it was just a very clean audit. You've got a good finance staff here.
Okay. We just changed last year to your firm.
Yes.
So that's nice to hear that we've done well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey?
Okay, sorry about that, coming back for a second time. So as this audit was being conducted, wasn't there a vacancy in you all's department, Richard?
Yes, we did lose one of our accountants to, she left to go to California, and so we, Tia had very well organized the group, and between Tia and the remaining staff, they picked up the slack for that vacant position. So it was a bit of a challenge, but Tia stays so well organized that it ran without a hitch pretty well.
So now that we're coming up to budget time, we can take that position and put it somewhere else?
I knew that was coming.
No, the answer is no. That position has been filled.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
Seeing no further lights, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is our citizen input. Did we have any cards? No cards, so I guess we didn't have any citizen questions tonight or comments. Moving right on into the consent items, I will ask the city manager to read items number A through F.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The consent agenda this evening consists of item 4A is to consider the minutes for the March 15th, 2016 City Council regular meeting. Item 4B is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the annual procurement of fuel with Martin Eagle Oil Company, Incorporated, in the unit amount bid through the Tarrant County Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with an estimated annual expenditure of $349,230, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and purchase orders, and providing for an effective date. Item 4C is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the annual procurement and processing of library books with Brodart Company in the unit amount bid through a City of Dallas Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with an estimated annual expenditure of $100,000, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and providing for an effective date. Item 4D is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, exercising the second of 2 one-year renewal options for Auto Pound and Wrecker Services with 24-hour Wrecker Service Incorporated in the unit amounts for city-initiated vehicle tow and recovery maximum allowance rates as provided in Exhibit A with 24-hour Wrecker Service Incorporated, authorizing the city manager to issue and execute the appropriate purchase orders and documents, and providing for an effective date. Item 4E is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving and accepting the terms and conditions of an agreement with Dallas County on behalf of the Health and Human Services Department for the Mosquito Ground Control Program effective from October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016 at a rate of $185 per hour, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the agreement.
Council, you've heard the captions read. The chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Will you please vote? Thank you very much. Item number 5 is items for individual considerations. Item A is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the annual procurement of ready-mix concrete with Ready Mix LLC, doing business as Customcrete, in the unit amount bid through a City of Dallas cooperative purchasing agreement with an estimated annual expenditure of $145,150, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and issue purchase orders and providing for an effective date. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here before you to introduce this agenda item and the item following it. As you see on this first slide, what the staff is requesting is consideration of a resolution approving the terms and conditions of this annual procurement of ready-mix concrete with Ready Mix LLC, DBA. It's a custom concrete. They have a batch plant in DeSoto, which is about 15 minutes away. The local government code provides for voluntary participation in cooperative purchasing programs with another local government. That's what we're choosing to utilize again, as we have in the past. The council approved an annual term bid for this service on September 1st of 2015 under a City of Dallas cooperative purchasing agreement for $84 a cubic yard. And the the Dallas purchasing agreement has since been rebid, and it came in at a 32% increase, or $111 per cubic yard, which increased the bid amount to $145,150. So we had $98,297 in our budget allocated for this expenditure, which created a funding deficit of $30,935. We can absorb some of this, the increase, but we can't absorb it all. And we're requesting, if approved, a separate agenda item, which would be item R5B following this one. We recommend the approval of that amendment to the utility fund balance to reallocate funds to the utilities, water, and wastewater service direct materials account to cover the shortfall. And then I just wanted to show just a number of pictures up there. If you wonder what we do with the $145,000, we do sidewalks, we do what's called flat work, which is driveways. We also do utility cut repairs with that. And sorry, went too far. And we also do curb and gutter installation. My apologies for the error on the slide. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have regarding these two items.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey?
Thank you, Mayor. It seems as if when the current year budget was built, it was built on an estimation of prices being at the lower amount, and subsequent to approval of the budget, then the prices went up to what they currently are at. Is that the way it worked?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Was there any consideration given to possibly deferring certain water and sewer related projects in that particular fund, possibly deferring those projects until next year when the budget will be rebuilt reflecting the higher prices?
No, sir, we actually did not consider delaying any projects. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is a 3-year bid. And so we would have to defer projects for quite some time. It's a risk. Price could always come back down, but we just don't know that. So we're kind of subject to the best price we can get through a cooperative agreement.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because I know in a few moments we're going to talk about doing a budget amendment in the water and sewer fund to cover this. But as Tia just covered in her report, as of right now, we're $152,000 short of the 60-day requirement. And so if we approve this deal, then we've moved from $152,000 to $190,000. And I'm just wondering if we're possibly betting that the revenues would be sufficient over the summer months to possibly make up the difference. And that's probably not a fair question for you to answer. That's probably more of a Richard question. So I guess I'm interested in hearing how do we make this up?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could answer that. First of all, in deferring this, part of this cost, we estimated the quantities of repair work we would have, but some of this, especially in the water and wastewater fund, is for repairs to water line breaks. So we have no control over that. So if it happens, we've got to go in and repair it, and there's going to be that cost. The amount in the general fund that was budgeted for concrete, the overage, we can absorb in the general fund through savings in other areas of that line item. So the next item is the budget amendment for the utility fund. We are running below our where we would like to be on the 60-day reserve, but we do have a reserve fund. And I would say too, and Richard can add if he'd like, but right now where we're at in the utility fund, we're coming off the winter months, which is typically when we would sell less water. We're going to be going into the summer months when we're going to be selling more water, and so I would expect to see that fund reserve increase. And remember too that the financial report tonight was just a snapshot of where we are today.
Thank you.
Correct. If I could add, just right now we're selling between 3 and almost as high as 4 million gallons per day. In the summer, we sell in excess of 9 million gallons of water per day. So as the city manager mentioned, that's our peak time for revenue generation.
Councilmember, no, did you get your light on? Okay. Councilmember Thomas?
Mayor, I move that we can pass this resolution to allow the city manager to spend $145,150 and no more.
She's tough.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no further lights, will you please vote on that? Okay, thank you very much. You got your marching order there.
Yes. Make note of that.
Okay, and then Mike's got his marching orders.
Yes, sir.
And then item number B is a companion to this, and that's to adjust the budget. Consider an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, amending the operating budget for the fiscal year 2015-2016 by amending the utilities fund balance to reduce such fund by $30,935 and transferring said amount to the utility water and wastewater service direct materials account. That the balance of the operating budget as amended, except as amended herein, shall be in full force and effect, authorizing the city manager to make adjustments, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Sound like to me the lawyer wrote that. Is there a motion concerning this?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, do you have any comment on this?
No, sir. Nothing to add.
Okay. City manager? Your lights on. Okay, seeing no further lights, will you please vote? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Item number C is to consider an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, amending Appendix B, Subdivision Regulations, Article 4, General Requirements and Design Standards, subsection G, Drive Approaches, Driveways, and Parking Spaces of the Duncanville City of Code of Ordinances by adding a new subsection 3 to provide for requirements for parking on unimproved surfaces under a licensed agreement on special events permit, and providing for conditions for non-governmental agencies, and providing for a severability clause, and providing for a repealing clause, and providing for an effective date.
Well, Mayor, you just made my presentation for me, and now, actually, let me just add to that. This amendment would provide for an exemption to our current ordinances that requires non-residential parking spaces be paved out of reinforced concrete. And so this would allow an exemption to occur. The exemption would only apply for a city council approved specific license or a use agreement or by an approved special event permit. And so the highlights of the amendment include any specific license or use agreement for parking on an unimproved surface would be limited to a specific time period as approved by the council. Without a council-approved license or use agreement, parking on unimproved areas during a special event would be subject to the approval of that special event permit and would be limited only to that single event. The specific use agreement or special event permits issued to a non-governmental agency would require an operations and maintenance plan, a cash or surety bond providing for necessary repairs caused by any damages to the unimproved area. And so I just wanted to add those points to what the mayor read in the resolution.
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve. Councilwoman Jamison.
I want to clarify the license use agreement for a limited period or a duration of a specific event. So where will they go to get that license or a special event permit? Is that code?
That would come through us to the city council. Now, the special event permit is actually administered through Parks, and it's a staff level committee.
Okay, so special event goes through staff park, and license use agreement,
Or special event permits would go through the city council.
so we'd have to issue an SUP for each individual incident.
In effect, it would almost be like an SUP for, and it would specify the amount of time that exemption would apply, that cars could park on an unimproved surface. So,
And it would be for a specific event for a specific amount of time? Okay.
yes.
Okay, seeing no further lights, there is a motion to approve on the floor. So at this time, will you please vote? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you, sir. Item number D is to consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, providing for the appointment of Kathy A. Austin, PLLC, as an Associate Municipal Court Judge to fill the unexpired term of a vacancy in the Associate Municipal Court Judge, and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement providing for a repealing clause, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Council, we have already had the opportunity to talk with Ms. Alston. So at this time, is there questions? And I do see one from Councilwoman Thomas.
I wholeheartedly support Kathleen Austin. She's a Duncanville resident. She knows her community. She's lived here for many years. She's also a very experienced municipal attorney of several cities. She's retired. She has lots of time, she says, to devote to Duncanville. She lives less than 2 miles from the police department, and we're very excited that she lives with us and that she's going to be here working with us.
Well, you left one thing out. What's that? That she dots the I's and crosses the T's. That's a council joke. Well, thank you very much. There is a motion and a second on the floor. I see no further lights, so will you please vote? Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda for tonight. We appreciate your being here, and so we stand adjourned at 8:08.